Good evening and welcome to the April meeting of the Alexander Board of Education. Kim, if you'll do roll call, please.
Aaron?
Here.
Blake?
Here.
Jay?
Here.
Josh?
Yes.
Steven?
Yes.
If everyone would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I need a motion to adopt the agenda, please.
So moved. Seconded.
Aaron?
Yes.
Blake?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Josh?
Yes.
Steven?
Yes.
And we'll have our reports and comments and start with superintendent's report.
Yes, I've got two that are listed, but I've got a couple others to add as well. First off is some good news. Last week, we were notified, oh, there you are. We were notified that our elementary school was recognized by the state of Ohio and received the Momentum Award. Very proud of the work that's being done there. It's a really good group and a really special team, and they're really accomplishing things, and you like to see them get a pat on the back when they've earned it. So if Ms. Rouse would like to talk a little bit about that, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I kind of on the spot here. I didn't know that I was going to be speaking, but talking about my staff is always a pleasure because, as Mr. Hampton said, they are an amazing team. I'm very proud of what they've been able to accomplish last year and this year. They're really putting in some hard work. You're going to get a small glimpse of that with Ms. Carr's presentation on our curriculum adoption process and some of the work that's gone on with that. I was just going to read a quick little snippet of the letter we received from the Ohio Department of Education. It says, "This remarkable accomplishment reflects your unwavering commitment to excellence and the outstanding services you provide to your students in the community. It recognizes the devoted teachers and staff who consistently go above and beyond, ensuring that all students receive exceptional learning and instruction. Your tireless efforts in nurturing young minds, fostering a positive learning environment, and promoting holistic development has not gone unnoticed. Your impact extends far beyond the classroom, shaping the future leaders of tomorrow." And I think that that says it very well. All of the credit goes to our staff, teachers, paraprofessionals, all staff members. It's really an amazing team, and I'm just grateful to be a part of it. So, excellent job to our staff. I hope our community sees that too. If you happen to see a staff member from our end of the building, please give them a much-deserved pat on the back. They've been working really hard. Very proud of them.
Thank you. That was wonderful. The next item that I had up was the use of the ARC, and specifically talking about the mornings and how they're used. We're not seeing the kind of response that we thought we'd see from the community and haven't throughout the year. We had a couple of people that have used it, but that's been very sporadic and literally a couple of people that wouldn't already have access to it. I don't know that it's a worthwhile investment in us to keep it open and keep it staffed. We're paying someone for those 2 hours in the morning. And so you'll have an opportunity later on in the board agenda to talk about that and make a decision about whether to continue. The evening use it's being utilized fairly consistently in the evening. You'll get real highs where you get a bunch of people get together, and I don't know what spurs that. Maybe it's a basketball tournament. I don't play basketball anymore. I know better. But, there are some peaks of real interest in the evenings, and we do have to clean that facility on a daily basis because it's used by our kids on a daily basis. Right now it's being used for testing. So I wouldn't recommend changing that schedule by us cleaning and maintaining the facility in the evenings that allows for the community to come in and use it. And right now that's possible for us without adding any expense. Two items that aren't on the agenda is the civil rights issue that we've been going through with our athletics. All of that was submitted today. And so this has been a lot of work. This is the complaint about girls' athletics and boys' athletics and how maybe girls may not get prime time, if you will, for some of their contests. And so we have collected data, collected information, and I want to give Mrs. Carr and Mrs. Lucas a big kudos for that, because they have been the point people for that project, and it's been a tremendous amount of work. We've been working with an attorney, and she is very detailed in her questioning, so we will submit things back. It's been a lot of work. So we're happy to have that submitted. Hopefully we'll get a response from the state, but we are going to go ahead and start looking at things that we see and we can influence and start to make some of those modifications. But we're going to wait for the findings to go fully into it. The last piece, and this is just an update to the community. As I said in our last board meeting, that we will be making reductions, and we will be doing that through attrition. There are 4 teaching positions for the fall that we are not going to fill. We've had a couple of special ed positions that we are going to reorganize staff. We also have a first grade position that's not going to be filled, and we also have a science position. We're going to reorganize our science department, and some of that's coming through transfer and some through involuntary transfer. So I just want to let you know there are 4 teaching positions at this time. And that's what I have for this.
Okay, Ms. Carr, I believe you're up next.
Yes.
So I'm actually kind of excited to be here tonight, even though it may be the most beautiful day of the year we've had so far. Tonight kind of feels like a milestone and a lot of really hard work that our elementary has been putting in for over a year at this point. There have been a lot of changes coming from the state in terms of legal requirements around reading instruction. We knew our reading instruction needed to improve here, and it's something we had been working on. This just basically pushed our process forward a lot quicker. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just made us have to be a little bit more prompt with some of the things that we had already planned to do. Our teachers really deserve, kind of like Mr. Rouse was saying at the last point, a pat on the back. It has been a busy, hard year with a lot of work put on them, and they have handled it very well. They have been dedicated and committed. This is a big change. The exciting part of it all is I think it's finally coming together. So I'm here tonight mostly because we've kind of hit the end point of the first step of the process for us, which is figuring out which curriculum we're going to use. We typically do 6-year adoptions in this district. That way when we pick something, we use it for 6 years before we re-update it to something new. So this was a big decision. It was not taken lightly. We put a lot of thought, time, effort, commitment from not only our staff, but we had community members involved, parents involved. We worked with a representative from the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce. We had other districts involved, networking opportunities. It was a very involved process, and I feel great about where we've ended up. I don't have a clicker. All right, so just to give you an overview of our process for the year, we intentionally started out with professional development being the first step in the process. Our teachers have went through LETRS training, which all in all, by the time next year is over, they will have over 140 hours put into this training. And that's more than a master's degree in a lot of positions. And so I think that's another piece to keep in mind is how much time and effort our teachers have put in. This training is not only going to check 2 boxes in terms of state requirements, but it has built the capacity of our teachers in a way that is going to allow them it did allow them to be able to pick the best curriculum that we could. If we would have did this process a year ago, I don't think we would have been able to have made it through it quite as well as we have. Having this understanding of what we were looking for going into it was invaluable. The next thing that we did this year is we had a literacy committee. This committee, we originally started out, we were just going to have a normal district literacy committee, but we decided that it was important to involve our community. We invited every single parent in the district, community members, we had people from other school districts attend, and we worked with a state consultant from the Department of Education as well. And we did this, I believe, 3 meetings this year. At every meeting we had a little bit of a different focus. The first meeting this year was more of an informational session to inform the public kind of what we are doing and why we are doing it.
and also to gather some feedback in terms of what we've been doing in the past and what has and hasn't worked well for families. And we gathered some really good information from that group. The next meetings, we kind of went a little bit deeper into that and gathered more information from that group. And then the final meeting, we presented 2 different curriculum options we were looking at and gathered family feedback around those 2 programs. And we had a very small but great representative group of our district. It was very diverse personalities, diverse families, diverse students that they were here representing. And we were pleased with the amount of feedback and time. I mean, I had one parent send me a 2-page email. I had another parent who stayed around here for probably an hour or 2 having conversations with us. We had some really good feedback that we shared with our teachers who were on the district committee who was making that decision in the end, and it helped influence what they chose, and I think that's good. We want what we're picking to represent not only what our teachers and us in this building, because we are one piece of the puzzle, but what our families want as well. Then after that, we got into really the curriculum adoption component. The state of Ohio released an approved list. Myself, Mrs. Rouse, and Mrs. Costable, we started out looking at the large list and narrowed it down for our teachers, and then we used our literacy committee to basically go through that list, look at the different programs, go through product demonstrations, try the lessons from them, figure out what they did and what they didn't like of each of the program before we got to the point of being able to make a final decision. Next slide, Mark. Going into this, we knew there were certain things that we really wanted that kind of helped drive, when we were trying to narrow down the options, this helped drive what we were looking for. The first thing was obviously fully aligned to the science of reading requirements. That was the baseline. I mean, obviously compliance is necessary, but that wasn't the only thing we were looking for when we were doing this. Foundational skills in phonics is something that we had identified as a weakness in our area, and something that we knew when we adopted a new program that we really wanted to focus strong on. All the program elements working well together, we come from basically having 2, 3, 4 different programs that we're pulling together to fill all the different needs. And every time you try to piece something together, the puzzle pieces don't fit perfectly. And we learned that kind of the hard way the last several years. And that's a consistent complaint Mrs. Rouse and I had heard from teachers was the challenges and the efforts of trying to put things together was just not good for them, not good for students. And lastly, and probably most importantly, making sure that the materials match the values and needs of our district. That's something that these curriculums are different than former curriculums. They approach different topics and conversations, and anybody that watches the news hears people talk about how curriculums are pushing different mindsets or beliefs. We have to be very intentional about what we choose to make sure that it does match our district and what our district values. So with this, House Bill 33 mandated the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce to essentially create a list of approved curriculums that we could choose from. The curriculum that we had prior to this was not approved. It was a 2017 version of a curriculum that is no longer on the approved list, which is expected. Anything that was from 2017, 2018, 2019, for the most part, is not going to be improved because it was not developed with this line of research behind it. So looking at that list, there were 16 programs as of, I intentionally put as of 4/10, so as of last week when I made this presentation, because everything around these initiatives are changing. I mean, that list, when it initially came out, I believe it had 8 items on it. Now it's up to 16, and things are trickling their way onto that list. But Shauna, myself, and Abby have all spent a lot of time looking at all the programs that were on those lists. And before we presented them to teachers, we narrowed it down to 2 options, essentially. Presenting 16 options to a group of teachers, I mean, if any of you had ever stopped by my office in the last 4 months, the joke around here has become I had a yard sale because I had so many samples from different products in there. So we intentionally went through, met with all the companies ahead of time, narrowed it down, and using those kind of non-negotiables that we talked about in the last slide, figured out what were the best 2 options to put in front of our teachers. What were the 2 things? And I know our general rule of thumb was, if we are okay with no matter what they choose, let's put those things in front of them. And we truly got to the point that I felt good about that. The first option we put in front of our teachers was CKLA, which stands for Core Knowledge Language Arts. It is produced by a company called Amplify. And then the other option is a compilation of 2 different things. So the new mandates require you to have a knowledge building and skills. So you have to have both those things. CKLA is comprehensive. It has all those things built into one program. Whereas there's also knowledge building programs and skill programs that are separate. So our thought process was present one comprehensive program and then find the best knowledge and the best skills programs and present them as another option that can be put together. So on the left side, you see the comprehensive option. The right side was Wit and Wisdom was the knowledge building program, and 95% group or UFly. Those were 2 separate phonics programs that were options we put on the table as well. In the end, we chose core knowledge language arts as our district approved curriculum, hopefully pending tonight's board meeting. It was chosen by the majority of our teachers. Within our process, how we went about this was we had every grade level was represented on our curriculum adoption team, went through the process together, and then those people went back to their entire grade level and discussed it, worked through it, practiced it, did demo lessons. I was getting emails from teachers at 10 and 11 o'clock at night asking questions about the curriculum, which to me is exciting. That means our teachers are engaged and involved, and they are really invested in this process. And I feel very confident that we had a lot of investment from our teachers, and they were excited about this. And so at the end of that, we basically had every grade level let us know what their choice was, what their first choice, what their second choice, and why. And then at the end of it, Abby, Shauna, and I met together and went through what they had provided. We consulted with basically the Department of Education and different people to come up with our final choice, which was CKLA. And to be honest, that part was the easy choice. It was the overwhelming majority of our staff and teachers preferred that program. That program had the most, can you go back one slide? Getting a little ahead of me. Mark wants to get out and see the pretty weather fourth over. The community feedback around that program, I would say, was significantly more positive than it was around Wit and Wisdom. It met the needs established early in the process. And the other piece that I really liked when we were looking through these things is that it had a lot of science and social studies. And we're going to talk a little bit about that more in the next slides. But the topics addressed through CKLA are ones that I feel like our community is really going to value and see the reward in the long term. So what will be different? And part of the reason why I wanted to come here tonight was not only so that the board is aware, but so the community is aware that this curriculum is going to be different than what we're used to. All the curriculums on that approved list are different. Like I said before, we have to have the knowledge building side and the skill side. In the knowledge building side, I'm not a language arts person by nature. I'm a math person. So my brain worked very different. I have learned, the learning curve for language arts was quick and big for me this year. I'm fortunate I have Mrs. Rouse and Mrs. Kossel beside me, who both are language arts people. But when you're thinking through how you do a language arts instructions, we all think about just teaching how to read. The knowledge building really focuses on the importance of having that background knowledge about topics in order to be able to comprehend. One of the podcasts we listened to, they read a story about cricket, like the sport cricket. I know nothing about the sport cricket. I'm very much a sports fan. I'm very involved in sports. They read the passage to us, and at the end of it, I remember looking around going, what did we just hear? It's because I didn't have the background knowledge around that sport, no different than if we read a medical journal. We could read the words on the page very easily, but to comprehend what it's saying is not easy. And so the idea behind the knowledge building curriculums is that if you build that knowledge of different topics, a variety of topics over the years repeatedly, then students have a more wealth of a knowledge to pull from, and when they're reading, their comprehension ideally should be better, whether it's on a state test, whether it's reading the newspaper, because they should have more background knowledge to be able to connect to when they're reading. And the other side of it is that science of reading. I'm sure you've all heard the terminology science of reading at this point, at least in some fashion. The skill side is where that is really coming in. There's no more of what they're calling the 3Q system. That's when I was reading, I know they used to always say, well, look at the pictures, what word makes sense, or find the context clues. Those are actually now banned in state law. Those are strategies that in the state law you actually are not allowed to use anymore within a classroom, which is a drastic shift and goes back to, I would say I'm guessing almost everybody in this room was taught using those strategies probably. And our teachers were all taught how to teach with those strategies. That was the importance in us investing all this time and the effort into that LETRS training, because it gave our teachers this whole new tool set. We've been very fortunate that the professional development time built into our schedule this year and next year has been a blessing. It's really allowed that to happen and given our teachers the time that we needed to be able to make that growth. So then the next thing I just wanted to show you was the overview of topics. This is another area where you're going to see difference. So if you look at these topics, and I know on the projector it's very hard to see, I think I handed you guys a bigger piece of paper that has all of those laid out on it. But if you look across those topics, they're surprising, especially if you look at the grade levels. A few units that I pulled out by grade levels just to point out. First grade, they're going to learn about Mesopotamia. Third grade, they're going to learn about the Roman Empire. Fifth grade, they're going to learn about Shakespeare. When you hear those topics, those aren't things that you would normally equate to those grade levels. It's really boosting the rigor and the topic and the knowledge that students are being exposed to at an early age. That way, as they go up, they're going to have that foundation and it slowly builds. This is something that I think at first for our teachers, they looked at and thought was challenging. We worked with several different school districts who are 2-3 years ahead of us in this process, who have adopted CKLA, for example. And they said that at first this was something their teachers saw as a major barrier, and now they're really seeing the rewards. They described first graders going out on the playground and drawing a very detailed scale, real-life depiction of the solar system. That really is building the students' content knowledge and giving them those skills at an earlier age without limiting them saying, oh, that's above their ability. So to me, that's exciting. I think we're going to see the benefits not only in reading with this, but our science and social studies. If you look at those topics, most of them very much overlap with science and social studies, and I think it's going to benefit all of our subject areas in the long run. And then next steps, because obviously we aren't done just here. We will start implementing the new curriculum in order to be compliant with next school year. The things that we will be doing next year will be continuing with training. The science of reading training, we did modules 1-4 for letters this year. We will do 5-8 next year. Every teacher in the entire school district, whether they teach reading, PE, music, science, social studies, and K-12, has to have some type of science of reading training by the end of next school year. We are currently working on the plan for what that looks like. And that's going to be a significant change, especially if you have spent your entire career teaching art. Learning about the science of reading feels like it's not connected. The state of Ohio has released specific modules for different groups of teachers. So in an ideal world, I'm hoping to see that those things are relevant and we can use it to basically make some cross-curricular connections. Curriculum implementation, when you get a new curriculum, it's a lot more than just buying a book and putting it in the teacher's hands. It's a very big learning curve. There will be training within the teacher schedule next year on how to use that. Shauna Costable is going to do a lot of coaching with our teachers, as well as the curriculum companies will come in and do some coaching as well in the first year. Grade level meetings and teacher support is something that we did this year. We were very fortunate that Mrs. Rouse found ways to put that in the elementary schedule, where roughly 2-3 times this year, I believe, we spent time with the teachers, Mrs. Rouse, Mrs. Costable, and I, and going through some of these things, helping them stay update, checking our data, measuring progress, seeing what their challenges were. That's something we found to be very successful this year that we're hoping to continue next year as well. And then lastly, in that area is Tier 2 intervention. By state law, any student who scores below grade level on our local screener has to have intervention. And we are going to be building that into the schedule. There's a separate period of time within all of our elementary students' day where intervention occurs. And if a student doesn't need intervention, they may be getting some other type of small group, whether it's enrichment, math help, different things occur during that time so that every student's getting what they need. And then finally, family support, we're just going to finish up. We'll probably have some more curriculum. The literacy committee, we're hoping to bring them back together and do some parent support meetings. We would like to do a literacy night. Ms. Costable is very excited about that. She would like to use our partnership with Ohio University to support this. If she's watching, she's probably saying excited is a big word, but she is excited. Anybody that knows Mrs. Costable, anything she does it very well. And so I'm very excited to see where this goes next year. And then family curriculum resources. That was another big reason we selected CKLA. There are a lot of resources to support families when they're trying to support their students. And that's hard. I mean, the thing people always go back to is I don't know how to help my kids with math. It's the one you hear the most. But reading's going to be the same. It's going to be different than how we were taught to read. So providing those resources to families is going to be very important for the success going forward for us. Questions? I know I threw a lot at you very quickly. Mark told me I had a stopwatch because it's 85 degrees outside, though.
I have a couple of questions for you. New teachers come to the district. We have to fill a spot, whatever it might be. Will those teachers need the training that we've already gone through, or is this something that, like a fresh graduate is getting that training?
So it's a mixture. What I would tell you is I know higher education institutions are embedding this within their programs. However, they're lagging behind. I mean, everybody's trying to play catch up. These mandates came down very quickly last summer and essentially came down and said they had to be in place within a year. Anything in place within a year is quick. So I would expect long term that universities will address this. Short term, we did the LETTERS program, which fortunately for us basically met the dyslexia training requirements as well as the science of reading. That's not the only option. The Department of Education also has online modules available for both of those things. which I would argue, to be honest, isn't quite as in-depth and thorough as what we are doing, but it's good. And it's probably something that when our new teachers come on board, I would assume that would be the route we will go with them.
We are working on a plan right now for that. I think part of it will go back to what Megan said about coaching with Shauna. She's already almost done with the entire letters training. We intentionally started her last school year with the thought that she would be the support person. So I think that moving forward, it's very expensive to buy individual seats. So we've talked about using the state modules to supplement, and then Ms. Costabile doing some additional coaching with those new teachers because she does have that knowledge to provide the support. We'll probably have to come up with a hybrid.
You looked at the two, the comprehensive and the I guess, puzzle pieces of the two pieces coming together. Phil, is there cost and or consistency issue between the two?
I would say when you compare the two, I mean, it's a scale factor, but they were pretty comparable. I mean, we priced out everything. They were, I wouldn't say they were completely equal, but when you compare them to, like, for example, a knowledge building only curriculum is cheaper than a comprehensive. But if you're doing a knowledge and a skills together is roughly the same as a comprehensive based on what you're looking at. The other thing with cost to keep in mind, and we actually just finally got notification, I think it was last Thursday, Friday, with the mandate, the state did put some money behind it, and I say some lightly. It wasn't enough, obviously, to cover the full amount of what it's going to cost, but it was a good amount. I mean, it at least chipped away at what the total cost is going to be, and it is going to help. And the recent guidance we did receive said that there might be more money coming at the end of it, but obviously we can't count on more money coming unless we know it's here.
The state maybe got some strong feedback
Yeah.
when they saw the amount, so.
And then lastly, so the current student that's in, let's say, 4th grade, 5th grade coming next year, how do they slot into this? Or is this a sliding scale for the students that have already been through?
So we asked that question pretty thoroughly, and the company's assured us that there's the beginning modules, the beginning of every year has reviewed, basically fill it in. And the other piece that I think is important to keep in mind, especially with the skill side, not necessarily the knowledge side, but the skill side, our reading intervention program for our students who have been struggling, we have been doing a science of reading 95% aligned program for a few years here. And so fortunately for them, that's not going to be a huge learning curve to switch over to this program. The knowledge building side, I think there will be a little bit of a learning curve, but for the most part, even though the units do connect to each other, they can act in isolation, and that's what the company assured us, that you should be able to pick it up and have no problem. And all the curriculum companies as well, they have resources to support that. Like if you have a student who's struggling with a unit because they don't have the background knowledge, they have the resources to help you support that child.
And why I got both of your attention, congrats on the elementary award. I know curriculum director, I'm sure you have some play in that. Second year, I can't even remember how much time flies. Second year at principal?
Time flies when you're having fun.
Thank you. It truly does go back
Be
to the
proud.
teachers, though.
I'm able to be proud, and I sit here and say yes or no. And you guys do hard work, and you need to be as proud as those teachers, those students, and community members down there. Well done.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Just to add in on this, if you have any idea how much training has gone into this, I mean, I think her presentation speaks to that. And this also speaks to some of the time, because we've had a different and modified calendar this year than we're used to having, and we actually asking for an additional day at the end of the year now, because we've now made this adoption and we need to prep our staff for that. We've got a day at the end of the year for just our elementary kids, so that our staff can get together one last time before we get into the fall training cycle. These things are really important. This is how you do build capacity into your staff. I mean, we're educators. We're all about learning and growing of our kids, but we're also doing the same individually and as a team. So those are important moments for us, and we appreciate the board's support when you adopted the previous calendar. I'm hoping for your support as we move forward to the 23rd and adding that as a day for our elementary staff to work together. So just a little sidebar.
Add to that.
Yes.
Thanks also to the parents. I've tried
Yes.
to reach out and be very transparent with parents through newsletters and communication why these days are necessary. It is not lost on us that when school closes, it's a hardship. I would never ask for that unless I felt like it was really essential. Our families in this district have been incredibly supportive of that, and I've heard a lot of positive feedback. So I want to thank the community on that note too. Our families have been very generous and very supportive, and we appreciate that. I know our staff appreciates having the time to do it because it is a huge adjustment. But I really firmly believe this is going to pay off.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to echo, thank you to the three of you for the work that you put into it. I can only imagine, because as I'm sitting up here, it what Megan talks about it's kind of Greek to me, but I take their recommendation very serious, and the amount of work that they put into it, it'd be hard pressed to go against them. So thank you, and to all the staff. We'll be voting on that later. So. Next up, we've got Dan Phillips, our Transportation Director. He has a report for us.
Mr. Phillips is brought in, and we wanted to talk about some things that we've been talking about in the community, and it's about our routing systems with our transportation. He's going to talk about the pluses, minuses, the good, bad, and the ugly of all of this. We can run two different systems if we wanted to. We can run a single route system, which is where we go and we pick up every kid at the same time. That's pre-K through 12, and then drop every kid off and take them back home, all at the same time. All of it happens in one motion, and we've been in that form or that system for a long time. There are also other districts that have a double route system, and that would split schedules with our younger kids and our older kids. How that's divided would be up to the district to decide. But I asked Dan to look at this and talk about efficiencies, since we are talking about efficiencies and we're talking about trying to save money where we can save money, and to look at this, and he's going to share his work with you guys this evening. So, Dan?
Good evening. Let's start about where we are right now. We are single routed. We have 24 buses. We haul about 920 children every day. And what I want to say is I want to take you through some numbers. So for single routing, 24 buses right now. The fuel we buy about 50,000 gallons of fuel per year. I think our last purchase was $3.38 per gallon. I anticipate it going up. Fuel is not going to come down, so my numbers are based on $3.50 a gallon. Our tires were approximately $14,000 last year. Our oil was approximately $8,000. 24 drivers at approximately $30,000 each is $720,000. We try to turn our buses over on an 18-year program, and on doing so, that'd be 1.27 buses per year. For about $177,800, and that total comes up to about $1,094,000 approximately for single routing where we are now. Double routing, the idea is to, well, you can cut drivers, you can cut routes. How many can you get rid of? Athens, I think, is 19. They're double routed. We are 24. I believe we can get down to 20. Would be my estimate, and these are estimates. Our district is 174 square miles. Athens district is 89 square miles. They hauled 1,118 children. Again, we're like 916. They can do it with 19 buses, and right now we're at 24. I anticipate that if we go to dual routing, there's some unknowns. How much more fuel will it take to go out and do the same thing you just did? It won't be 100%. By eliminating 4 routes, you're eliminating the fuel that you would have spent on those buses, which is approximately, on the short buses or short routes, Mrs. Napper, would be more in the $5,000 range for those 4. They're more in-town buses. That's what would go away first. I think that 60% more is a good estimate to go out and take our buses and run the whole thing again and come back in. That being the case, I come up with about $280,000. Tires, I took them at 60% as well, $22,400. Oil, $12,800. 20 drivers at $30,000 each is $600,000. The 18-year turnover on buses is 1.1 buses per year, about 155, 400,000. The other thing on double routing and trying to make this work, and I would like to ask you all something at the end, but or even now propose the idea. I don't know if people really understand how far out we go in our district. To McKee's Junkyard, Buck Run Road down Columbia Township, and the Marathon gas station at 329. We go past that, and the next road on the right, we turn down there, and you end up at Willow Creek Road. That's one of our first stops on some of our routes. But I would like to ask you or invite you to get in a school van with me. It takes a good 4 hours. Mr. Hampton did it with me. We'll take breaks and drive the entire perimeter of the district just to get a feel for what I'm talking to you about, what it looks like. I know we all know where we live, but just to get a feel of the entire district would be good. In doing so, what I wanted to say is that in double routing, in order for me to get the kids in, get back out to Shade, get back in, and drop them off, and do it, and then do it again, and then do it again, and do it again, I'm probably going to have 6 hours a day instead of the 5 that we currently pay. And that 5 hours a day was put in place, and when we went to the single school complex, it's not necessarily 5 hours, but that's debatable. We can talk about that later. But the 6 hour a day, doing so, you're going to have 20 drivers and an extra hour per day. So $20 an hour, that's on the low side, times 20 drivers times 178. It's about $71,000 extra dollars a year. So about $1,141,800. Difference being, for me, from what I'm coming up with, is dual routing based on removing 4 drivers. Because of the extra fuel, because of the extra time you'd have to pay them, you're probably going to be negative 47,000. If you can make it 5 drivers, you're negative 17,000 because it's 30 per driver. If you can make it 6, and I don't think we can, our distance, again, Athens is 89 square miles, we're 174. Almost 100 square miles more is a lot of area to cover with a school bus. It's forever. Just the time to get to our first stop in Shade is a 35-minute drive from here without picking up a kid. And then you have to run all the roads I would like to take you out and show you. I don't believe that dual routing is going to, you're not going to save. I don't believe that. I truly don't believe that. And I want to throw some other numbers at you. You guys can write these down if you want. There's a yellow bus cost analysis by district. I think ODE, you can look it up online. I just want to tell you a few numbers. This is all-inclusive. Kim, is this correct? All-inclusive of transportation when I give them this number. So Alexander Schools, fiscal year 22-23, we spent $1,298,000. Federal Hocking, dual routed, they spent $1,427,000. Athens City, dual routed, $1,600,000. Jackson City, almost $800,000. Warren Local, $1,862,000. Meg's Local, they're almost identical to us in kids, district size, and amount of buses. They were $1,873,000. 2 more. Benton County, that's a huge county, $1,900,000. And just for fun, Logan Hocking, $2,600,000. Out of that group, just by, I'll pass this around to you. You guys can kind of look at it. Actually, I have a few more things. I'm sorry. A few things on here to talk about. Just district to district, what we cost. It's a number that's out there. It's a report. It tells you what we cost compared to others. So There's other things to look at. May I talk about 2 mile radius and 9 through 12? Okay. If the levy does not pass, and you're really wanting to dig into this, we've talked about this years ago, Mr. Collins. It's not where I want to be. I don't want to make any changes that affect anybody negatively. But we don't have to legally haul kids within a 2 mile radius. You could just say, I'm not hauling them from this point, draw a radius. Once you get to an address, you're done picking them up. There's probably 3 buses there. 9 through 12, you don't have to haul them either. And there's probably 4 buses there. And would also get rid of Tri-County, which is about an extra $16,000 just to get them back and forth. There's a lot to this. I know at some point this levy has to pass. I'm just saying. And I would prefer it pass sooner than later. I don't think any of us want to make these drastic changes. If double routing was a big money saver, okay, I'm in. But for the way we're set up, for our district, centralized school, 35 minutes away, 100 more square miles almost in Athens, it's hard to pull off and get rid of as many buses as you might think. And to rerun the routes, the fuel that it's going to take, it just overcomes any savings you think you have. I'd like to mention a few other things. When I first started in 2000, buses were $36,000. A bus now, the last quote I got, is $140,000. I don't know where the extra money comes from for that, but those are big things to overcome. From 2017 to now, in 2017, we have worked, when we were audited, when the levy didn't pass, we really worked hard on saying, what can we do? How can we reduce? We purchased buses that are one size bigger, allows me to get 4 more kids on each bus. Our special needs buses, we went from smaller ones to almost full size. They're all inclusive. I mean, they're all our kids. Everybody rides together. And we're down about 40 kids from 2017. So we've taken every advantage we can, or every opportunity, to reduce the amount of drivers we have. From 2017, we had 29 routes. Today, we have 24 routes. So we've reduced 5. That's a chunk. And I think what I'd like to do, I would like to get into next year, get into October when we do our count, see where we are again, get on the buses, study our loads, and see if I can consolidate another one. We're always looking to improve that. We're always looking to reduce if we can. Since I've been here, we've gotten rid of 7 routes, but 5 from 2017 to now. Something else about double routing. The elementary kids, our last student we drop off now is about 4 o'clock. If you go double routing, you can add an hour and 15 to that, maybe a little more. Also, a lot of our trips leave at 3, 3:30, 3:45. Some of our buses can get back. We've kept some routes shorter on purpose to help with athletics because we run 250 trips a year. And so we're trying to please athletics. We're trying to take care of kids. We're trying to take care of a lot of things. We have homeless children we deal with. If they're in Athens, we work with Athens City. We get them back and forth. We have a charter school in Albany that we deal with. We run on their schedule. Regardless of what we do, I have to meet their schedule. And we run to Tri-County. We cover a lot. So what I want to get at is all my drivers then, getting back to the garage would be in a 5 o'clock range. I would have to have a substitute driver for each and every trip. Substitute drivers are hard to come by. I currently have 3. I'm doing better than Vinton County, and I think Athens, even though Athens is hiring 2 full-time substitute bus drivers, 5.5 hours a day, plus $20.50 an hour. Benton County can't keep people. They're hiring full-time drivers, 7 hours a day, dental and health. We have 3 drivers saying, Dan, that's going on. I say, hang in there, stick with me. And we've always been able to keep them. And they want to be here, so I'm pretty sure they'll stay. But that's hard to compete with that. I guess my plea to the public is help us pass this thing. It's important. The last time the levy was up, we had one graphic that showed that we educated a child for like $9,000. It was cheaper than all the schools around, and we had better grades. We educate kids and haul them here cheaper than other schools, and I think that's important to know, and get better grades. You just saw what these fine ladies did here. Wonderful. We're all trying very hard, but I would ask for everybody to help us out and see a way to pass this thing. That's critical. It has to pass at some point. So the other thing with dual routing, it is P through 12 right now. We'd pick up high school first, and we'd pick them up out in shade, 6:20 in the morning, 6:35, 6:40. Parents are there with the little ones. They're used to this. That doesn't mean we have to do it, but their lives are built on what we do now. Everything is built on what we do now. Then we would come back and then get the little one, same bus, drive all the way back out to shade again, get them again, bring them in. Afternoon, reverse it. It's quite an undertaking to put that on people, especially if the savings aren't there. If it was dramatic savings, I wouldn't fuss with anybody. So, if I may, Mr. Hampton, can I pass this to him, the cost analysis? Just have a look at it. It's on there. I think it's maybe 209. There's a number written on each one, and it shows the square miles. And each school is different. Meg's is single routed. They went to dual routing a while back, and I think they're back to single. Another school was single, went to dual, and then they came back to single, and they wanted their drivers back, but once you let that many people go, they have to secure employment elsewhere. It's difficult. It's just there's not enough savings there to, and keep that, make copies of it, take it home, study it.
Do you have a digital copy of that?
I don't,
I can scan that
if you
to
can
the
do
board.
that,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, just dig through
Yeah,
all the
we'll
numbers.
do that.
Dig through all of them. It just kind of, it shows what we do. It shows what all the schools do there.
Dan?
And some other questions. Hit me with anything. I want to answer all I can for you
Okay,
guys.
Dan, so earlier you gave a quote that, how many buses do we replace on average a year currently, single route?
Single routing, we want to do, I think Mr. Sherm wanted to get it at 2 a year. The state would like us to be, is it, Kim, I think 12 to 15 year turnover, I believe. We don't have that kind of funding to do that.
Okay.
So we tried to do one year, two the next, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So I just figured it out on that on this paper.
You had quoted a number, and
Yeah,
I can't
it's like-
remember.
it's
It was
like,
1.8 or 2?
1.2 buses.
Yeah, 1.27 buses
Yeah.
per year. Yeah.
Okay. How would that change going dual routing and putting
Dual
more
routing would
miles
be
and-
1.11 buses per year on 18-year turnover for 20 buses. And so on single routing, 177,000, dual routing, 155,000 a year. That's just on a breakdown. But at the end of all this, and you guys can have this too, I'll pass this around. At the end of all of it, my figures come up to single routing, $1,094,000, dual routing, $1,141,000. That's whether I can get 4 routes or 5 or 3, but I'm pretty sure we can get 4. Like I say, Athens is at 19, but they've lopped off almost 100 square miles to cover. That's a lot of territory to run. So you need buses. Their density of their population is much more than ours. Mr. Hampton's old school, 71 square miles. They were 1.2 million a year, 15 or 17 buses, and their numbers look very good, but it's a tight area, 71 square miles. And you can go out and get back, go out and get back. And the density of the population is such, it's different than what we do. No. No. Vinton County does a split. I don't know how Mike does it. And some schools have buildings everywhere where they'll have buses meet, they'll exchange kids, and they'll go, and they'll move. We just have the one building, the one hub is all we have. It's out and back, however you do it. But I just think I don't think the numbers are there to push that on people. If they were, that's fine. But again, we're 1.2 million a year, 1.298, and everybody else is above that. I don't want to say I'm comfortable with what we do, but I think I can look in the mirror and think we did a good job getting those numbers there, reducing routes. And if I can get another one this fall, we're going to do that. You can look at the numbers on all those papers and see what everybody else is spending with double routing, split routing, single routing, or what have you. You'll see on there supervisor salaries. You'll see mechanic salaries. You'll see fuel costs, tire costs. You'll see all kinds of that stuff. You'll see secretaries, no secretaries, supervisors, no supervisors, because some schools may put a principal in charge of it, kind of, and a secretary that's making 60,000, who's actually kind of running it, but the principal may own it. You'll see it almost always a secretary elsewhere. If this helps too, I'll just tell you that for the 23, 24 years I've been here, I have not had a secretary. It's just me. I answer all the phone calls. I do all the payroll. I get all the people hired and trained. I keep them all legal. And I don't mind doing that.
Dan, unfortunately, I can remember, 6 years ago, we had this same discussion. I mean, Josh was here,
Yeah.
I was, and at that time, we did this same analysis, and we come up with the same answer. At least back then, it wasn't a savings. It wasn't much savings at all.
Well, I think trying to increase bus sizes and taking advantage of, if there is a turn down with COVID, right? We hauled 550 a day then. And the numbers were 960. I think it's on this paper. I'm just going to give this to you. You can peruse it, check it out, make copies. See all kinds of scribble notes. Call me out on anything. I'll show you where I found it. Show you what I know. If I'm missing something, educate me. Maybe I missed something.
What is split routing?
What is what?
What is split routing?
Well, I think Vinton County, they dual route in the morning, single afternoon, or vice versa.
Oh,
They do, they have some
I
special
don't know,
thing.
they, like, hug back and then.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what he does, but I do know he doesn't have enough drivers. He can't keep subs, and I love Mike, but he doesn't even have drivers for his routes, and we do. I have 3 substitutes. I've got everybody in place, and they want to be at Alexander Schools, as do our teachers. They want to be here. All of us want to be here. We just want to keep it running. And I think we are putting our best foot forward to educate in better ways, to save money on routing, to buy better. Whenever I purchase fuel, it sounds silly, I call 4 or 5 different people. We buy the lowest each time. It can vary by as much as 10 cents a gallon on a $10,000 load, or 10,000 gallon load. It makes a difference. We look for those things. I mean, with Mr. Hampton, I met with Mr. Hampton and Mrs. Napper, and we're talking about things too. How can we save? Where are we always looking? What can we do? It falls back to the public, though. We need their help. We needed it back then, and we need it again. And we're worth investing in. The school is worth it. That presentation was fantastic. Who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't want substitute drivers that train on routes and know where their preschooler goes on Wednesday, Thursday, not Monday, because it's grandma's this week. There's a lot that happens on a daily basis. There's a lot. And it takes training, it takes staying on top of it to make this thing run well. So for the public, help us, please.
So this is, I'm looking at your 1.1 buses per year replacement. That's assuming that you're going to keep an 18-year
Yes.
turnover, but with double routing, would you expect to keep an 18-year
I don't
turnover?
know. That's an unknown to me. That much it may turn out, it may go by faster because they may wear out quicker. You're going to really put the miles on them.
Right, that's, I mean, if you're essentially doubling the
can't do it
output
there. It
would impact
each
it.
bus,
Right.
you're probably looking more at a 15-year turnover rate.
Possibly so, but yes, possibly so. I tried to make this I tried to be as realistic as I could. I wanted to be honest with my numbers. I didn't want to skew it to say, I just want to do single routing, let's forget everything else. I tried to make it, there it is. Yes, that's where I want to be with that. I want you guys to study it. Hit Mr. Hampton with it later. He can talk to me and ask me questions, whatever you guys need. I don't think it's there for us. That's me. And I know I can remove 4 routes, but you know how much each person is. The big unknown is how much fuel is it going to be. And one other thing too, our insurance is cheaper the more hours you make. Should the union negotiate 6 hours because that's what they're actually going to actually physically have in a route, they're going to be more likely, some people, to say, I'd like to have insurance now because it's cheaper. And then that's another cost to incur. I'm not saying that's a bad thing or a good thing. It just is a thing. Those are all just things to think about. I don't think I'm wrong on that. As you work more hours, it gets cheaper. And it would be more appealing to somebody or more affordable. They may say, I would like to have that, and maybe in bigger numbers than I think. Hit me with some questions, guys. First of all, would anybody be interested in taking a free tour around our district in a Honda Odyssey van, 4 hours with me, lots of conversation, ask all you want? Anybody? Hit me up afterwards. I know I put you on the spot.
I do my own Honda
Come
Odyssey
on.
all over this district.
Well,
with my kids
I'd like
and
to
wife
take
all
you
the
guys,
time.
I'd like to show you things. Mr. Hampton was brave, he did it. We got to know each other fairly well. It was interesting.
Way to start.
It was a heck of a way to start. And he does not like to sit down, I'll tell you, it was killing him. It was killing him.
All right, anybody else?
Dan, you mentioned the 2017 audit and
Yes.
the things that, I think it was 2017.
Yes, I think so.
One of the recommendations they came back with was the idea of using software. to
They
help
did.
the
They hit
routes.
us with software. They hit us with dual routing. I think they recommended us get down to 23 routes, and they wanted a certain amount of kids per bus. I am that close to where they wanted on the 23 routes. I am that close. We can do, it has been, I have 2 years left, if you'll keep me. Maybe 3, if you'll keep me. That's what I have left. Me personally, I would like the next person that comes in after me, if you guys are going to get a routing system, to invest in what they would like to. If you want one before that, we can do it. I have no problem with it. Routing system, probably in the $20,000 range with $3,000 a year upkeep. I'm all in. Every year it gets better and better. They get more precise. Their mapping is better. The information they store from a secretary inputting information to get to me is better. I have no problem with that if you want to invest that money.
That's what I was curious about was the pricing, because you've already mentioned that the wear and tear on the bus is fuel, oil, tires.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
just the basics.
Those are the big things, right? But with the numbers that you mentioned, it's only a few percentage points in efficiency that would make back the entire cost of
Right.
of the software plus the maintenance each year.
Right.
So the first thing I wanted to know was what your opinion is on the software, if it could help us, and then the second was going to be the cost. But you've already answered that, and it almost seems
I think
achievable.
I think for me, it may help. I don't want to pick. I just don't want to pick for somebody else. That's how I feel. I feel like I'm picking a computer for them or a program for them when they may come in and say, "Why did you spend $20,000 on Traversa when I like Gatekeeper or whatever it is? I can't believe you did this, and I don't want to work with that." Although they'd have to because you hired them. But I think somebody should be able to look into that. But I can dig into it some more and give Mr. Hampton some numbers. We can go from there.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought. If somebody were to come in and whether they like the software or not, they may like it still better than using pen and paper.
I wouldn't argue that.
Whoever the next person has come in may not be as talented or
I'm
as
not-
understanding as you are of the area. And I'm not doing that just to blow sunshine at you. I mean,
It's years.
that's
It's years.
truth.
It's just years of being here.
Yeah.
Just knowing the roads. Yeah, and Mr. Hampton would also tell you too. I'm going to speak for you just a smidge that on the we've had this conversation on the routing, the software, that there's a lot of work that goes into it to tell it you can't run this road. You have to go up Parker Road from the right, not the left. You can't. This is a dead end. You can't do that. I wish our district was a circle and we were the center and everything came in straight, but it doesn't. But I'd be interested if you want to go that way. I'll start searching out what I think are excellent programs based on what other schools say and present those to you. I have no problem with that at all.
Would you say, just based on that, I don't know anything about the software, would it be more beneficial to have you essentially teach it, the software, what it needs to know
Well,
before you would leave?
I don't want to speak out of ignorance on it. I just don't know. I don't know what it requires. I don't know what it needs. And I guess that's part of my research. I would have to just dig into it and educate myself, bring things to you, present them, and go from there. Cost, upkeep, what other schools likes, dislikes. Your secretaries, I think, and maybe your EMIS person may also, is it EMIS? May also want to be involved with that, because I think importing data from them to that is huge as well. You know, are we putting in the kids' note that it's Monday and Tuesday to dads, Thursday and Friday to moms, Wednesday grandmas, next Monday Nova Learning Center? There's a lot to this. There's so many notes. God bless the elementary secretaries. They keep that thing going. They're the best. Well, high school too, but as far as little kids, they're great. They keep that machine running, and that is getting kids with the little green note everywhere safely. It's a big deal. You have no idea how many kids go all over the place every single day. And I think we run around 1,600 miles a day, 916 kids-ish. It's a good setup. And I want well-trained drivers and well-trained subs. We have onboard instructors that train our drivers. When I hire somebody, though, I don't want to hire them for Athens or Benton County or anybody else. I don't want to train them and have them leave. So I want to get this levy passed, get this into place where we can keep doing the excellent training we're doing and keeping parents' expectations high of what we do and getting the kids home safe. That's what I'd prefer. It has to get there. It just has to.
You walked me down memory lane when you were talking earlier too, so I have one more opinion question for you. A year I won't mention, it was before you started, was the first year we went to, we had the junior high in Shade, and we had New Marshfield, and we had Albany, and we had here, and I got the honor of being the first one on that bus early in the morning, and then driving to Shade, and then turn around and come back. I got a lot of sleep on the bus.
I bet you did.
But the idea of having those hubs still exist. Are there efficiencies that we could gain if we tried to reach back to doing that?
I
We had some people, to a certain extent, come to us.
Sure, yeah, there's a thought on dual routing. For instance, in Shade, do you have 4 buses out there working it and everybody meets at the community center? They dump off to, they dump, one bus dumps off to the other 3, they go, and the one bus goes back and start. I don't know. We can dig into that with a routing program, I would imagine. It's a bigger deal than to just come up with it out of my head. I can't do that,
Yeah.
to be honest with you. But I think I've maximized, or I'm close to maximizing, what we do well. And again, I feel good looking at the numbers, the overall numbers. There's cost per mile, cost per child, cost per bus. There's different kinds of metrics, different things you can look at and sell it however you want. You can try to sell something to somebody, but you're all intelligent people. You can read through numbers and understand. You can look at it and ask good questions, and I think you have, and I think we're close. But size of district, I mean, we're going to guess unless you really want to push and do a routing system and dig into it. We'll guess at some things, to be honest with you. But my answer, if you said we want to do dual routing, I know the 4 routes I'd work on. I could do that just on a base of straight up, I'm going to get rid of these. I'll need you guys to do this. I'm going to plug another bus down by Shade because it's just too far. I can't make these times. But if you really want to dig into it, routing system's fine. I got no problem with that at all. If you want to stay where we are, I'm good with what we're doing and maintaining and shrinking that as often as we can, often through attrition, maybe not if, levy situation. But that's what we've done over the years. We've shrunk it down.
Anybody else? Thank you, Dan.
Yes, sir. You guys have a nice evening.
Dan,
appreciate
thank you.
listening to
Thanks,
me.
Dan.
Appreciate it.
You know my number.
Always.
Dig into those papers, call me. And if you are interested, call the Best Garage for a free tour.
Yeah. Thanks again, Dan. Great job.
Will you need me anymore? Am I free to go?
You are free to go. Enjoy your dinner.
Mark's jealous. Okay, public participation for agenda items. Anybody want to discuss? All good? Okay. I want to make just a quick comment. Mr. Collins and I were able to come out Thursday to, correction, it was Friday, wasn't it? What day did,
So it
for
was
Mr.
supposed to be
Streckle?
Friday. It was supposed to be Thursday.
Supposed to be Thursday for Mr. Streckle, to a memorial track event. Unfortunately, Ohio's spring weather did not cooperate, so we had a little honor for Mr. Streckle. His family was there. I just wanted to thank those that attended. It was a nice event, even though the weather was still kind of lousy Friday afternoon. I know our stalwarts on the front row were in attendance, and I'd just like to thank Miss Lucas for the effort put forth there. I know it wasn't her and her alone, but it was just a great way to honor Mr. Streckel, longtime teacher and track advocate. So just wanted to briefly mention that before moving on. So, thank you both.
Yeah, it might be worth mentioning there is a new meet that's going to happen down here. It won't be the Streckel Invitational. That'll be moved to next year, but April 22nd, am I remembering correctly? There will be the first meet at the track for the students, which means they will have their first senior night here since 15 years. Instead of at Nelsonville, yeah. So, still a worthwhile event to be part of.
Okay, moving along. Treasurer's recommendations. It's recommended the Board of Education approve the minutes of the March 20th, 24 regular meeting.
So moved.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Recommended the Board of Education approve the financial statement for the month ending March 31st, 24.
So moved.
Second.
Aaron,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes.
Steven.
Yes.
It's recommended the Board of Education approve the following transfers. And these are our general monthly transfers for school-wide.
So moved.
Aaron,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes.
Steven.
Yes.
It's recommended the Board of Education approve the following donation. Elementary PSSF would like to make a $4,109.47 donation to the Alexander Inclusive Playground. They held a change for a change drive.
So moved.
Second. And is this, did Mr. Maskell end up with purple hair
He
from this?
did. It was wonderful.
Do we have pictures?
There's evidence.
Okay.
Thank you,
Aaron,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes.
Steven.
Yes.
And thanks for that donation. Under superintendent's recommendations, it's recommended the Board of Education approve the substitute teachers, paraprofessionals, as recommended by the Athens Committee, the SC superintendent.
So moved.
Second.
Aaron,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes.
Steven.
I'll abstain.
It's recommended the Board of Education grant one-year contracts to the following pending their meeting all state and local requirements. There's a long list, I'm not going to read it. Right.
So moved.
Seconded.
Aaron,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes.
Steven.
Yes.
It's recommended the Board of Education grant two-year contracts to the following pending their meeting all state and local requirements.
So moved. Seconded.
Aaron,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes.
Steven.
Yes.
It's recommended the Board of Education grant three-year contracts to the following pending their meeting all state and local requirements.
So moved.
Second.
Aaron,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes.
Steven.
Yes.
It's recommended the Board of Education employ the following supplementals for the 24-25 school year pending their meeting all state and local requirements and the constitution of a full team for the season. Certified Jordan Hill for varsity boys basketball, non-certified it's Jamie Nessa volunteer volleyball, Nikki Ohms JV volleyball, and Sydney Rudder 8th grade volleyball.
So moved.
Seconded.
Aaron, Blake,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes.
Steven.
Yes.
Welcome, Jordan.
Jordan, since you're
Another
here
capacity.
yeah, since you're still here and hung out, welcome aboard. I have my hats off to both of you. Your wife's the head volleyball coach. You're going to be the basketball coach and three young kids. So God bless you.
It'll be gym rats.
They're going to grow up in the gym.
Yep.
Yep. It's recommended the Board of Education non-renew the long-term substitute contract of James Stamper effective end of the 23-24 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Aaron,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes.
Stephen.
Yes.
It's recommended the Board of Education accept the enclosed letter of resignation from Catherine Thompson effective the end of the 23-24 school year.
So moved.
Seconded.
Aaron,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes, and thank you for your years of service.
Jay,
Yes, and ditto to what Blake just said.
Josh,
Yes.
Stephen.
Yes.
It's recommended the Board of Education accept the enclosed letter of retirement resignation from the following: Dan Dosick and Nancy Whitten.
So moved.
Second.
Aaron,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes, and echo, thank you for your years of service. Been there as long as I've been here.
Jay,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes.
Stephen.
Yes, and congrats.
It's recommended the Boards of Education approve the following change to the 23-24 school calendar. And that's going to be Wednesday, May 22nd. It's the last day for elementary students. And Thursday, May 23rd, is professional development for elementary staff. There is no change to the high school, junior high schedule.
Correct.
So moved.
Seconded.
Aaron,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes.
Stephen.
Yes.
And now getting back to the presentation from earlier from Mrs. Carr, it's recommended the Board of Education approve the adoption of core knowledge language arts as a district adopted curriculum in grades kindergarten through 5th for the 24 through 2030 school year for English language arts.
So moved.
Seconded.
Aaron,
Yes.
Blake,
Happily, all your hard work made it very easy. Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes.
Stephen.
Yes.
It's recommended the Board of Education discontinue morning, i.e. 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. access to the ARC due to lack of use by the public.
So moved.
Seconded.
Aaron,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes.
Stephen.
Yes.
Under policy updates, it's recommended the Board of Education approve the following policies for inclusion into the Policies and Procedures Manual as recommended by OSBA.
So moved.
Seconded.
Aaron,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes.
Stephen.
Yes.
Business initiated by board members. Anybody have anything? Board reports. Public participation on non-agenda items.
I want to mention one thing.
Yes, ma'am.
This is history for you people on the board. Dan was mentioning about getting kids on the right bus, going to the right place. We had an over a 50-day strike in the school system because the student was put on the wrong bus.
Wow.
And then that teacher was let go. That's just a little history.
1980?
79 or 80. Fascinating, or 80.
Okay.
All kinds of weather.
I'm going to discuss the date of the next meeting. The problem you have with working board members is that there are conflicts with work a lot of times, and next month is no different. So, to our devout front row, we're gonna change next month's board meeting. We talked about the 22nd
Yes.
of May. Does that still work for everyone?
It's a
It's still a Wednesday.
Still Wednesday, it's just the
But
third
it's-
Wednesday.
It's going to be 2 weeks after our normal.
To be the 4th.
The first is on a Wednesday, so it's the fourth Wednesday.
Okay.
Are you good with that?
Do you have any work do you have any work conflicts? Okay, so our next regular scheduled meeting, I should say, is going to be Wednesday, May 22nd, 7 o'clock here in the library. Everybody good? Okay. Now skipping back up, I anticipate no other business after this, but we'll make a motion to enter executive session to discuss the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of an employee or official, or the investigation of charges or complaints against an employee or official.
So moved.
Second.
Aaron?
Yes.
Blake?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Josh?
Yes.
Steven?
Yes.
8:15.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. 9:28, and we'll come back into regular session and have a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Seconded.
Aaron? Yes. Blake?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Josh?
Yes.
Steven?
Yes.
Thank you. Just a reminder, May 22nd, 7 o'clock is our next meeting. Thank you.